Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavai Tejasvinavaditamastu Mavidvishavai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May Brahman protect us. May he guide us and give us strength and right understanding. May love and harmony be with us all. Om peace, peace, peace. And good evening. We're broadcasting to you from the library of the Vedanta Society of Southern California in downtown Hollywood. So this is our last Friday night of the season, and we will resume again probably second or third week of September. And we are continuing to read The Locus of the Soul, an article by Swami Ramakrishnananda. And he's trying to convince us where the seat of our soul is. And he is going through several quotes from the Upanishads. I'll go back a couple of quotes because some of these are quite nice. He who realizes Brahman realizes the highest. Therefore, it has been said, Brahman is eternal, infinite, and all knowledge. He who knows him hidden in the sanctum sanctorum, situated in the recesses of his heart, he enjoys all that is desirable along with the all-knowing Brahman, from the Taittiriya Upanishad. The effulgent and inconceivable being is very vast and at the same time subtler than the subtlest. He is most distant of all the distant things and at the same time very near to those who know him. He is hidden in the recesses of the heart, from the Mundaka Upanishad. The inner self, a mannequin as big as a thumb, resides in the hearts of all men. Him you should carefully separate from your body, just as the middle blade of a grass should be carefully separated from it. Know him to be spotless and eternal, from the Katha Upanishad. Now, that's a slightly odd way to use mannequin. It's not the mannequin that you dress in a clothing store. It's the mannequin the word is usually used to refer to a model that a physician would use, perhaps in a teaching situation. So anyway, we get the idea. The self, which is smaller than the smallest and bigger than the biggest, remains hidden in the recesses of the heart of a living being. He who is free from all attachments realizes through his grace the Lord who is majesty itself and is not reached by ritual, from the Svetasvatara Upanishad. He is one, has all things under his control, is the soul of all souls, and makes his one self appear as many. Those wise people who see him inside their own selves enjoy eternal bliss and not others. That's from the Katha Upanishad. Thus, according to the ancient sages, Brahman is to be realized in the region of the heart. Bhagavan Sri Krishna also teaches, and this is a quote, God lives in the heart of all living beings, and he, with the help of his Maya, directs the movement of all of them who are seated in the machines of their bodies, unquote. Every Hindu of whatever denomination he may be tries to see God in his heart, sitting in the posture of meditation, closing all his organs of sense as well as those of activity. So he's gone through several scriptures here, convincing us that the soul is located in the heart. Now he's going to bring up a few specific examples. He says, Buddha realized nirvana inside himself. Christ has taught the kingdom of God is within you. And that's from Luke 17, 21. Luke is considered the most mystical of the Gospels. Muhammad saw God in the seventh heaven, seated in the cave of Mount Mara, closing his eyes, and so he must have seen him inside himself. Thus, from the teachings and realizations of great teachers, we find that God is to be realized inside ourselves, in the region of our heart. So much we learn from them after hearing their teachings, carefully and deeply pondering over them. Then the search should begin in right earnest inside my own ego. This I may be very limited, may seem to be very blind, very helpless, yet it is nothing but a bit of pure consciousness, and I have absolute mastery over it, and it is one with myself. So if Brahman is to be searched in consciousness, the nearest one is my own ego. Hence, I should not think poorly about myself, as through me alone, Brahman can be realized. Now, he's going to go through a rather long discussion here, convincing us that the heart is the seat of the soul. I think I'm perfectly convinced by what's already gone before, and I don't find his argument terribly convincing in this following thing. Let's see what you all think. That this ego is not one with my body or mind can easily be understood by studying the phenomenon of sleep. When I am awake, I am in every portion of my body. But when I fall asleep, I am not in any of my external organs, either of knowledge or of action. Now, first of all, sometimes when we're awake, we become rather unconscious of our bodies. We get so absorbed in our work or in a conversation or all sorts of things you can become totally absorbed in, and you can become unaware of your body. I remember one time when I was teaching, we were in a little bungalow with a little window air conditioner, and the air conditioner stopped working. Well, I was pretty oblivious to it. I was totally engrossed in what I was teaching, and finally the students screamed at me, "Mr. Scott, the air conditioner's not working!" So one can be more unaware of things than one might realize. So that's my first objection here. All right. This requires no proof. Now, if I were one and the same as my body, separation in that case would be impossible. How can I separate me from myself? I can always separate or distinguish me from that which is not myself. Hence, the organs of knowledge and those of action, which make up the external portions of my whole living organism, are distinct and separate from me. But this does not prove that I am distinct from my mind. The same mind is to be found when I dream in the course of my sleep. So mind is there even in the condition of my sleep. But I do not always dream when I sleep. There is also dreamless sleep, otherwise known as sound sleep. At that time, I do not think, feel, and will. Not only that, I do not remember anything at all. Not only the world, including my own body, as well as the charming forms of my wife and children, but even the very memory of it has left me. Both of them have slipped off from me. So the mind is not there. But where am I at that time? Have I left the body? If that were the case, the body would be dead. You may call the dead body of a man ever so loudly, and the body is never going to be alive and conscious. But that is not the case for the sleeping man. He is somewhere in the remote corner of this body taking rest, just as a man desiring to take rest wants to avoid all sorts of disturbances, and so leaves the street-side rooms of his house and goes to a solitary corner remote from the bustle of crowds that pass by in the street. If at that time a friend comes to see him, having an urgent news to communicate to him, he will have to give loud calls before he can make him aware of his presence. But any amount of loud calling or ringing the call bell would never bring the man if he were not at home. In the same manner, you will have to give loud calls nay, sometimes even push or shake him in order to wake him up or bring him back to his mind and senses. Hence, when I sleep, I simply take rest in a solitary place in some corner of my body. Let me try to find out that corner. Now, so far, that's okay. Now, of course, we know that the brain is actually still quite active in every stage of sleep. It doesn't matter whether it's REM sleep or deep sleep or first stage sleep or second stage sleep or third stage sleep. The mind itself is quite active, or the brain is quite active. Now, the mind, of course, the brain is simply the instrument of the mind. So exactly how you want to distinguish that is up for debate, probably. How do you distinguish the mind from the brain? Because the mind is acting through the brain. And so if the brain is acting, does that mean some part of the mind is acting? Not so sure. But certainly the conscious part of the brain is, and therefore the conscious part of the mind is not active at that time. It is also a fact that I do not it is a fact that I do not stay in any one of the 10 external organs which make up the exterior portion of my body. It is also a fact that I do not live in my brain, which is the instrument of mind, as I do not think, feel, will, and remember anything. So I do not stay in the head, the hands, and the legs. Then I must be living somewhere inside the trunk, as I do not live in any of my sense organs. Even in waking condition, I do not live in the alimentary canal, as I have nothing to do with digestion of my food. Now, of course, we know the autonomic nervous system is conducting these things. So, anyway, I know to cook all sorts of savory dishes. I know how to put them into the cavity of my mouth. I know how to relish and swallow them. But how afterwards living blood is manufactured out of the foodstuff, I know nothing about. Not even the greatest scientist of our time. No man, however clever, has the power to produce one drop of living blood out of the most nourishing food. That power belongs to the Creator, who, in that capacity, goes by the name of Vaishnavara. What is my relationship with him? It is just a coolie's relationship with the master builder. The coolie is ordered to bring bricks, mortar, lime, water, etc., and is paid for his services. The master builder of this body is inside me, and his orders come in the form of hunger and thirst, and I am bound to obey him. And he pays my daily wages in the form of enjoyment of the palate. Hence, the whole of the alimentary canal and the various supplementary organs, such as the salivary glands, peptic glands, and the liver and the pancreas, the spleen, the villi. He knows his anatomy. The lymphatic glands, the excretory organs, etc., are presided over by God even in my waking condition, and much more so when I sleep soundly. Thus, in sleep, my search after me confines me to the thoracic, as I have no place in the abdominal region. I don't know, it just seems a little bit manufactured here. Again, the organ of respiration mostly acts independently of my will, even when I am awake. So in sleep, it certainly acts independently of me, and hence my search ultimately confines me in the heart, as I have no place in the lungs. Therefore, when I sleep, I am made to hide myself in the recess of my heart for rest, away from the rest of the workshop of my body, which in my absence remains closed. So anyway, that's his trying to give a scientific explanation for why we should consider the seat of the soul to be in the heart. Okay, I think I'll just take the scriptures. Physiologists regard the process of digestion, secretion, excretion, respiration, and the rest as due to a system of nerve cells in the spinal cord termed the reflex centers, and an efferent motor nerve, the whole constituting what is called the reflex arc. Actions which take place independently of the will of man inside the body are all due to the reflex arc, and thus most of these people think that there is no necessity of bringing in a God to preside over them. Such a baseless and absurd conclusion is the result of sheer materialistic fanaticism. The one purpose of self-preservation, individual as well as racial, pervades the whole life of man. Whatever he does physically and mentally is done with a purpose, and that is to make him live a happy life as long as he can, and after his death he wants his children and grandchildren to run the same course through all time. Every action done by him has a will behind it, and every will presupposes a conscious being in whom it is centered. The actions that are done independently of his will inside his body serve the same purpose of preserving his individual and racial self, and hence all those actions are purposeful, and as such voluntary, and therefore there must be a conscious being in whom that volition is to be centered. Since they are done independently of the will of man, they must be done by the will of one who is higher than man, who is the preserver and master. This being goes by the name of God. And so I would certainly agree with that. There is yes, once the spirit leaves, once the spirit or the soul or the Atman or the Jiva, however you want to see it, leaves the physical body, then the physical body is no more alive. The individual cells continue to operate for some time, and the hair can grow for some time. All sorts of strange things continue to go for some time, but there is no conscious being in there anymore. So this is simply a hotel, you could say, for the soul. Now, we have found out the real home of the ego to be the heart. Now, I'm wondering why he's referring it to being the ego. The ego, to me, is the covering of the true soul. It's the part of Maya that keeps you from knowing who you really are. The other portions of the body are merely its workshop. We have also seen that it is independent of body and mind, as it can live without them in sleep, a condition it gets temporary victory over unconscious matter. In the condition of sleep, the latter gets temporary victory over it. And so all throughout the lifetime of a man, the struggle is going on between ego and matter, each alternatively getting victory over the other. But if we consider the case of ego a little more carefully, we shall come to know that matter has got the better of it. In the waking condition, it is not so much helpless as it is when sleeping. But does it not then identify itself with the body, which is material, on account of its ignorance? Does it not know that it is independent of its body and mind? Does it know its true home to be in the heart? It has no such idea at all. Hence, identifying itself with matter, it has become more material and foolish than spiritual and wise. Such is the inverteracy, which is a very obscure term, which means obstinate, the obstinacy of this ignorance. The more that more than 99% of humanity cannot even imagine themselves as independent of body, even for a moment. Even men who are wise and who have been able to distinguish theoretically the nature of the ego from that of the body cannot practically separate the former from the latter. For although man's true home may be the heart, he has totally forgotten it, and so has made a home for himself in this place of sojourn, the world. Thus tied to his false world, the earth, he has no power to come back to his true home voluntarily. Only by the irresistible power of sleep, which makes him perfectly helpless and mostly unconscious, he is forced to go there every day for some hours. Of his own accord, he never cares to go, and even if he cares, he finds that he has no power to go. Thus, caught in the network of earthly attachments, he never goes out of the world, and even after his death, he eagerly takes his birth in it, not for once, but for several times, although he may imagine himself to be mortal. Thereby, his immortal and eternal nature can never suffer. With whatever intensity I may imagine a rope to be a snake, the rope is never going to be a snake on account of my imagination. So man can never perish after death. He only follows the bent of his mind after he casts off his body, and as his mind loves the world, to the world he will have to come again and again as long as he has love for it. So that all makes perfect sense. So in other words, our true nature is divine and eternal and one with Brahman, but the ego is the covering which tells us that we belong to the body and the mind, and so we want a new body and a new mind, and so we get incarnated again, and we come in with certain desires that we didn't get fulfilled the last time around, and so we have some say over what kind of body and mind we have. Not total. We have to go through, apparently, from what we hear from people that have remembrance of those things, that we go through some sort of process where we or have some freedom of choice, but not total freedom of choice, and we have a greater deal of wisdom, so we are able to choose a body that helps us to get through some of the karma and eventually come to the point of realization that we are not the body and the mind, but we are the eternal spirit behind it all. It's like being forced to take on never-ending roles in a repertory company. And you just get off the stage and they hand you another script. And you have to go back onto the stage. And you never get a chance to just be yourself, your true self. Why does he love the world? Well, because he imagines that it has got everything in it to make him perfectly happy. Indeed, it has very charming exterior. It is, he finds, in it he finds his parents, his wife, his children, his friends, relatives, neighbors, almost all enjoyable things, like name and fame, respect, money, property, love, and residence, all of which charm him so much that one lifetime appears to him to be absolutely inadequate to enjoy it, and so again and again he returns to it, and is again and again forced to go away from it by death. But he is not destined to taste the sweet fruit from this tree of the world always. Some very bitter fruits he has to taste, although he may hate them, and gradually his false dreams begin to disappear. Yeah, and when you think of it, how many people, there are a lot of people that don't get along with their parents. There are a lot of people that didn't get along with their spouse. There are a lot of people that don't get along with their children. There are a lot of people that don't necessarily have friends for life. They may have friends for a short time, but they may find some of them are don't end up being all that great. Relatives can be a pain. Neighbors can be a pain. Name and fame, oh my goodness. Just think of all the people that think they want name and fame, and then when they get it, all they want to do is get away from the paparazzis. And then they get money, and then they've got everybody after them to get their part of their money. So all of these things look charming, but they're not so charming once you get them. Behind the so-called love, he finds selfishness. Behind name and fame, wealth, etc., he finds anxiety and pain. Behind his home, he finds impermanency. Behind knowledge, he finds insurmountable ignorance. Behind enjoyment, he finds greater quantities of misery. And behind life, he detects the most abominable and fearful apparition of death. He then begins to question himself. I love to live always, but where is that eternal life? I want to be always happy, but where is that eternal enjoyment? I wish to know everything, but where is that omniscience? Certainly, these are not to be found here. Then, where must I search for them? He puts these questions to himself and all his fellowmen, but finds no answer. At last the scriptures come to his aid. They tell him in unequivocal language that death does not end his existence, that he is not one with the same as his body, that he is not a soul dwelling in the that he is a soul dwelling in the body. That is his eternal and very nature. That this is not the only body in which he is dwelling, and that he has dwelt in countless bodies before and is going to dwell in countless bodies hereafter. This he feels to be very consoling news. The very idea that he is eternal by his nature has removed a great load of anxiety and fear from his back. The helpless, weak, timorous, miserable, hopeless, and little ego has developed itself into a soul. It is no longer a poor little thing. Death is no longer a great bugbear to him. It is full of hopes and aspirations. Life has got a meaning to him. It no longer appears to him as meaningless and accidental. He thus feels himself immensely relieved. Well, of course, though, he still has to come to the conclusion that he doesn't necessarily want to keep living different lives. Swami Prabhupada used to say that the people that come here have pretty much lived all sorts of different lives and have gotten all sorts of different desires out of the way so that they can concentrate on spiritual life. And that doesn't mean you don't come in with any desires. If you're completely desireless, you wouldn't be here. But you come in with a set of desires that match with spiritual practices, and so that you can pursue your spiritual life. The scriptures also point out to him a place where he can live for a very great length of time, enjoying all sorts of desirable things, if he leads a life according to their injunctions. He does so, and as a result, he goes to those blissful abodes after finishing his term of life here. He goes to higher and higher abodes, each more permanent than the lower one, till he reaches the highest, which, although more permanent than the other places below, is yet not eternal. Eternal peace and bliss, which he longs so much for, cannot be found even in that blissful place which is called Satyaloka or Brahmaloka. Where can he find eternal peace? The Vedas cannot illumine him on the subject. Beyond the 5 higher spheres, the abodes of all blissful souls, they have no power to go. But when he longs for illumination, the Vedanta comes to his help and tells him, quote, everlasting peace and bliss, my boy, are to be sought inside and not outside yourself. He takes the hint and tries to go inside himself, but find that it is more easy for him to go outside than inside himself. But because he has weighed the enjoyments of the whole universe in balance and found them wanting, he does not give up the attempt, and the more he gets defeated, the more he takes courage, till at last he succeeds in going within himself in the recesses of his heart. The moment he goes there, all limitations fall off from him. He is no longer bound by his body and mind. He feels himself absolutely unconfined and free. He was searching for eternal life, all blissfulness, and all knowledge outside of himself, not knowing that all these are to be found only in him and nowhere else. He no longer struggles. All his struggles have come to an end, once for all. He has realized God inside his heart, inside himself. The ego has reached the higher rung of the ladder of the evolution and merged in infinite bliss. Shouts forth, Aham Brahmasmi, I am the eternal, blissful, and all-knowing Brahman, and loses himself in and becomes one with him, with a capital H. This is how the ego realizes salvation. But some souls there are who do not take up this method. They do not care to go to all the higher lokas in order to know their hollow and imperfect nature. In this world and in this life, with the help of a true teacher and properly using their power of discrimination, they are able to understand what is real and what is unreal, what is eternal and infinite, and what is non-eternal and finite, and thus knowing their self to be the only reality amidst all the unrealities that make up the universe, the only eternal and infinite being amidst all the non-eternal and finite entities, try to dive deep within themselves and discover their own true nature. Although at first they have to experience almost insurmountable difficulties in conquering their minds, yet with the help of their intense devotion towards their gurus, they gradually put down their ego, and then their individuality, which distinguishes them and keeps them separate from the Lord, the infinite soul of the entire cosmos. When they are thus able to put down their egos and individual souls by breaking down their limitations, the universal soul comes to take the place of the two. When the walls of egotism and individuality are thrown down, the enclosed becomes unclosed, the confined becomes unconfined, the limited becomes limitless. Nothing new comes into existence. Only that which used to be regarded as limited is found out to be the limitless, and hence absolutely free. So this is, of course, describing the process of realizing your own true self, that infinite, undivided, unchanging consciousness which resides within the heart. And it's done by, as he says, can be done by any of the four yogas. It can be done by the discrimination between the real and the unreal, the permanent and the impermanent, the finite and the infinite, and so forth. It can be done by trying to quiet the ego by really expanding it, you could say, into realizing your oneness with all beings, by being of service to all beings, feeling like you're serving the Lord in all beings. That expansion of the heart and the soul into the essence of all beings comes from that unselfishness. And of course you can do it through meditating and quieting the mind, quieting the sense organs, quieting all the things that pour all sorts of information into the mind, and try to distract it through all sorts of things out in the world, trying to make you think that there are things out in the world that you want. And so by quieting those sense organs, that you can, in meditation, realize that. And then, of course, there's the path of devotion, where you resign yourself totally to the Lord, and you say, Lord, it is by your grace alone that I will achieve this, and so please give me your grace to realize that the only thing that really counts is to know you as that one infinite source. How are we doing on time here? All right, we've got a few more minutes. I don't think we're going to be able to finish this, but we will read a few more pages, or a page or two. The permanent seat of the ego is the heart, but as we have seen in our previous discourse, it is tied to the three lower centers of the body, and as such has completely forgotten its true home. Thus tied down, it can only stay in the external portion of the body with which it fully identifies itself. In this way, it sometimes becomes happy and sometimes unhappy, sometimes conscious and sometimes unconscious, sometimes pure, good, honest, calm, hopeful, loving, sweet, and kind, and sometimes impure, bad, dishonest, restless, hasty, harsh, and unkind. Thus it leads a very changeful and miserable sort of life, buffeted by these pains of opposites. It cannot be always happy, pure, and good, although it may have a desire to be so. The only course left to it, if it wants to be permanently happy, pure, and good, is to go beyond these pairs. It is possible for it to do so. Is it possible for it to do so? Let us see. Yes, of course, we use these terms wanting to be eternally happy, but happy is really kind of more of a dualistic concept. It has to be compared with unhappiness and so forth. So that state which is beyond all these pairs of opposites is really beyond all these pairs, and so it really goes beyond our ability to put it into language. So we say eternally blissful, eternally happy, eternally peaceful, and so forth. But we're still using dualistic terms to describe a state which is beyond all the dualistic concepts. All right, so we have found out the true seat of the ego to be the heart, which it knows nothing about. It is simply seated there, in spite of its ignorance about the place, and hence, how can it have any control over it? But we have to say that it provides over the whole of the nervous system, for without it, the nerves are absolutely powerless, as we have seen it to be in the case of the condition of sound sleep. When all the sensory and motor nerves are perfectly inactive, the moment the ego comes back to them, they are all able to work. The senses are able to sense, the organs of activity are able to be active, and the mind is able to think, feel, will, and remember. So the ego is the rightful master of the entire nervous system, and it cannot bring it under its control. The cause is to be sought in its own sheer weakness and nothing else. The ego has no control over the heart, which works perfectly well even when it sleeps soundly. Who directs the movement of the heart at that time, and through its ceaseless contractions and expansion presides over the circulation of the blood all over the body? It is God. When all the inner and outer organs of the body are sleeping, now this is a quote, when all the inner and outer organs of the body are sleeping, he who keeps awake and goes on producing things that they desire most is the pure one. He is Brahman. He is described in all the scriptures as the one deathless being. All the spheres exist in him. He is beyond all. None else go beyond him. This is what he is, from the Katha Upanishad. Reminds me of a quote from the Bible that was put into Mendelssohn's Elijah. He watching over Israel neither slumbers nor he sleeps. So the Brahman never sleeps. The God within never sleeps. Blood is the intermediate substance that unites matter with soul. The material world gets united with the soul through the medium of blood. Out of the world comes food, and out of food God produces blood, stores it up in the heart, circulates it all over the body, and thus fills all the organs with energy to do their respective functions. Thus we have seen that God resides over the heart and all the vessels that emanate from it, with their innumerable ramifications, the lungs and the whole of the alimentary canal and the soul, and that the soul presides over the whole of the nervous system. When the ego lives in the three lower centers, it goes by the name of person. Then, when it lives in the heart, it goes by the name of soul. And when it ultimately unifies itself with the Lord, either by means of love or by means of discrimination, it goes by the name of Brahman. And of course, when you think of in terms of the chakras, the lower three chakras are the ones that we normally operate in. And they're the ones you have to be operating in if you're going to be operating in the world. You can't hold down a job and be residing in your upper three chakras. You have to be able to function in the world. But you would like, in meditation at least, to be able to contact all those upper chakras. And the heart is the gateway. So the first goal of trying to do chakra yoga, you could call it, it would be to bring your awareness up into your heart center. That's why we usually recommend meditating in the heart center. And then from there, it's usually a safe journey up into the upper three chakras. Not an easy journey, but it doesn't happen instantly, but it's a safe journey. People that try to start right out meditating in the head center can sometimes end up with some difficulties. You need to be able to integrate all of your energy centers. Let us now see how the ego can rise up towards the heart. Shri Krishna says, people who are attached to sensuality and power, and whose minds have been thus misled by them, do not possess that one-pointed mind, which is fit for concentration. That's from the Gita, chapter 2, verse 44. All the nerves ending in our senses and organs of activity are clamoring for enjoyments, which do not always come. Thus they make man very restless and miserable. All his physical and mental energies necessarily become outgoing and lie scattered all over the world, to which they remain tied with countless ropes of attachment. That is why it is said by the same great teacher, Sri Krishna, again a quote from the Gita, "One man out of thousands struggles to attain salvation, and out of many such great men who struggle to be saved, one knows my true nature." That's chapter 7, verse 3. If I am able to make a vertical section of my body through its middle, one half will be almost exactly the counterpart of the other, and the plane of section will exactly divide the spinal cord into two, passing through its central canal filled up with fluid called cerebral spinal fluid. This minute canal of the spinal cord is continued through its entire length. The spinal cord is connected with the brain through the medium of the bulb medulla oblongata, and it terminates below about the lower border of the first lumbar vertebrae, opposite to the navel. According to the Padma Purana, the coiled up spiritual energy called Kundalini sleeps there in the man whose sensual propensities do not require her to surface. Tied to the three lower centers of the body, he dissipates all his energies by his vain struggle outside himself in search after false pleasures, false life, false knowledge. When, after repeated failures and repeated experiences of various sorts of miseries, he is roused up at last to know that his senses are not his friends, that he should not give undue liberty to them, that liberty of his senses brings slavery to himself, that by subduing and controlling them, he actually becomes more powerful than the greatest conquerors of the world, who, although they may have conquered vast territories, have not the power to conquer sensuality, and that the so-called pleasures of the senses, preceded and followed by miseries, are really miseries in the garb of pleasures. Then he successfully rebels against these false friends and comes out victorious and free. Oh my goodness, this is going to go on for 2 more pages. All right, well, our time is up, and so we'll start that paragraph over again sometime in September. It reminds me of Genghis Khan. they've done through genetic analysis that a huge percentage of the population, especially from like Turkey onward all the way through to the borders of China, have some DNA from Genghis Khan. He had so many children that most of his genes have gotten, at least a few genes of his have been passed on to practically half of the world's population. And where is he now? 6 feet under, yes. Well, hopefully he's become more enlightened since then. All right. All right, so I hope you all have a nice summer. Most of our classes will continue during the summer, and so you're welcome to join in on any of those, but the Friday night class will be taking a break until sometime after Labor Day. Can't tell you exactly when, but a week or two after Labor Day we will resume, and be eager to see you all again at that time. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Filled with Brahman are the things we see. Filled with Brahman are the things we see not. From out of Brahman floweth all that is. From Brahman all, yet is it still the same. Om peace, peace, peace. Oh, you're welcome. Hi, Dean. Nice to